Hi, Brianna. It's Stephanie and Adrian from the How to Be a Redhead podcast. We're so excited to have you on. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so we want to get right into your story and everything about you. But a question we like to ask our guests who are redheads, kind of kicking things off, what was it like for you growing up with red hair?
Well, I was one of very few in the little community I grew up in, so obviously I was like the token ginger friend everyone had to have. That came with all the jokes and all the things that came with that. But the only other ginger that our school had, she was a number of years older than me, but she was like one giant freckle, and I thought they were so beautiful. Like I've always been so jealous of the ginger kids with the freckles, and I love it. And that's true to form, right? You always hate what you don't have and want what you don't. And she hated her freckles, and she was so jealous that I had like this like ivory like clear skin. And it was funny, just a few days ago she had messaged me, it was very random, and she was like,
She did?
I feel like my daughter has your skin. And I showed her a picture of my nose up close. I'm like, yeah, well, in my old age I've developed freckles, so now I've taken on the nickname Freckle just like you did in high school. So
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy that she messaged you.
right.
Was it after all these years?
So crazy. Yeah, because I hadn't been around her since elementary, and then in high school she went to a different high school, and I stayed in ours. So
Wow, that's so I know Adrian and I, we grew up in a really small school in Providence, Rhode Island, and we were the only two redheads in our whole school. So then we went to high school and there were a few, but that's when I dyed my hair blonde. So I guess I wasn't part of the redhead crew in high school. Looking back, I wish I was. But it's interesting how every redhead kind of has a different story on. But what we're hearing more and more throughout the years and with guests on our podcast, it's that they seem to be, one of very few growing up. And I think that makes us. Did you like standing out with your red hair?
not at that age, and I feel like that's probably
Yeah.
true for a lot of girls. Like you don't want to stand out negatively, and
Yeah.
at that point I've always felt
Yeah.
like it was like if you were going to be the beauty standard at that age. I'm old, I'm 30, so if you're the beauty standard at the age, if you weren't like the blonde hair blue-eyed girl, then like you weren't like the most popular in class. And so instead of being the most popular, then I just wanted to be the most athletic. I didn't care about being the best looking, I just wanted that. I mean, that worked out well in my favor because I won so many awards over my lifetime now for being athletic, so that's great. And I always tried to dye my hair. Like I've always been putting highlights in it, or I destroyed my hair for my graduation. I dyed it brown, box dyed my beautiful hair brown. My mother cried, real tears, like a full meltdown, because this box dye stained my hair. My hair was past my bump for graduation, and it was black. It took me years to grow this hair out. It was so bad. And then I went back to putting bleach in my hair and like dyeing it all the funky colors. And it wasn't until just before the wedding, like the year before like last year, not last year, but the year before, Ryan was like, you know what? I really love your red hair and you're always dyeing it. He was like, why don't you just grow it out? He's like, I want you to feel pretty however you feel pretty. He was like, but I really love your red hair. He was like, so if you want to grow it out and you don't feel like you like want to spend all that money to put the blonde in it, he was like, if you're doing it for you, do it. He was like, but if you're doing it because you think I'm gonna think it makes you look better or other people do, he was like, I don't. I like your red hair more than I like it with any other color in it. So I grew my hair out for the wedding.
Wow.
That's how you know he's the one. That's how you know, because they love you for you. That is so special. I love that story. I love that story. So it wasn't until recent that you really
was just
have
gonna say that.
embraced your red hair.
Exactly. And I have a redheaded cousin. She's got this like beautiful, rich red hair, and it's not brown, it's not red, it's just like this really rich red. And I did the thing again before Christmas last year. I bought this product. It was supposed to be a hair glaze, so it was just supposed to like enrich your natural hair color. Well, I put it on my hair and it was like
Oh no.
burgundy at the bottom, my natural hair color at top. Wherever my hair was the driest, the color took, and it stayed my color of ginger on the top. So it was
Oh
I got it out of
God.
my hair. I had to strip my hair, but it again dried my hair out to no end. So then I had to chop a bunch of my hair off before the wedding. So I was very stressed. But now
Oh
I'm
my gosh.
like, this is the color. Like, I don't know what I was thinking. I think when all of the
Yeah.
blonde finally got cut out of my hair over the last year and a half and my natural hair fully grew out, I'm like, why was I trying to change this? This was the color of hair that I thought I wanted, not realizing it was already my hair color. So it's so crazy how you finally learn to appreciate and love you. And I'm finally on that part of my healing journey where I'm learning to love myself. And that's just part of growing up, I think.
It totally is. I went through the same thing. I dyed my hair blonde for 7+ years. And then similar, the process for me took a while where you had to grow out the blonde and then I had to keep getting it cut. And then it was kind of weird because my ends were lighter than my actual red that was coming through. And then I experienced the exact same thing too, Brianna, where I would try products and then like a glaze or a gloss took to the blonde and like almost made it pink. And then the red, it took okay near my roots. But it's a journey when you're going back to your red roots, right? And then ends up all working out. And I really think for me, the process took longer than I thought, but it was so worth it in the end because now I haven't touched my hair, other than like using at-home products to enhance it.
Right.
But your color is so beautiful. So this is completely natural. You
This
don't
is
use
all my
any,
hair.
nothing. Wow. And
Wow. Do you regret covering it up, or are you thankful that you got it out of your system?
I think like even this summer I was humming and hawing between highlights again because the year of my nursing grad, like I had so much blonde throughout my hair and it was like really icy blonde, which made my natural red look really like really rich and red. So you know when people like purposely dye their hair blonde and red, like that deep shade red, like it made it look like that.
mhm.
Mhm.
And I really loved it. But again, it takes so much work to bleach red hair because it just our hair is naturally
Yeah.
hard to strip, right? So then it's my hair is finally really healthy. I was just saying I cut 4 inches of my own hair off. It's so healthy. Do I really want to ruin it again? Especially if it's gonna make me feel good, great. But if my husband loves me all the same with healthy red hair, why wouldn't I keep my hair healthy and red? I can buy like
Yeah.
Okay, so
blonde extensions if I really want to have highlights for the summer.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
wait, so tell us how you cut your own hair.
I'm TikTok taught. I
TikTok Todd. I like that. TTT.
TikTok. TikTok.
do the butterfly cut.
Wow.
I used to cut my own hair in high school. Because I like when my hair falls into like a V in the back, and I was a cheerleader, so when you put your hair in a ponytail, then it gives it a lot more volume. And I always find when I go to the hairdresser, it's all very like one length. So in high school, I used to cut my hair a lot, and then I just started going to the hairdresser, and I've never had like an amazing experience at the hairdresser. But it wasn't until after the accident I had some terrible haircuts, and I don't know if it came from like a poor salon who didn't know how to manage me not sitting in a chair or their chair, or they were just afraid to like move me to balance the length of my hair because the last haircut I got, the ends were like notice, like it's bad when your husband can notice your hair is not the same length. And it was done at my birthday, so
Yeah.
I pulled out and I went to go and pay. Well, I never complain. Like I'm the kind of person that like she could have given me a mullet and I still would have tipped her and thanked her, but gone home and cried. Like I'm that person.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so I
Yeah.
was going to actually say
We're
something.
not.
And Ryan already paid because it was for my birthday. And I'm just like, oh, I really wish you wouldn't have done that. And he looked at me and he was just like, what's going on with your hair? I'm like, we have to go right now because I don't want to cry in this store right now. And so I came home and I just cut it my own self. And I did not look back until last year when I put that odd color in my hair and I didn't want, purple ends for my wedding, and I stripped my hair. It was very dead. And so a hairdresser came to my house. She was amazing. She did cut my hair very lovely, but she was so busy now until July. So I needed my hair cut now. So at least I had some length for the summer. So I cut my own hair.
So what do you mean the butterfly effect?
I'm
What do you
crazy.
do?
So at the crown of your head, if you like take a comb and you bounce it at the top of your head, wherever it balances, that's the top part of your head. And then you split your
Okay.
hair into two sections, put like the one ponytail at the top of that part of the section, the next one at like a unicorn level. And then you just
Okay.
follow that ponytail down to where you want to cut it and chop it off. It will give you a lot of like face framing layers, and like more
Oh
of
my
that
gosh.
be tailored, but it makes all of your layers the same length, like so it'll start my like shortest layers like up here, and then my face framing layers, my bangs, and then my long length at the back, or like at the bottom. So it worked.
Wow. How
It
long
looks
does it take
really
you?
good.
It does look really great.
It did take me quite a while just because like my hands get a little tired after a while. So I cut one ponytail and I go and I have a break and my dogs were looking at me like I was crazy. And then I go back and I did it again. I think the whole process took me about 2 hours, but someone who has got really good arm and hand function, you could probably have it done in 45 minutes.
Wow. That is so impressive. I would be so scared to cut my own hair, but I can understand. I mean, if you're used to it and you know your hair and you know the technique, like you just said, I can understand why go to a salon when you could just do it quickly at home.
Honestly, it was just, if it was going to be bad, I would rather be bad at myself for doing a bad haircut than going to the salon and having to pay for a bad haircut. I would have done it backwards.
Yeah.
So if it was really, really bad, then they could have fixed it, but then I wouldn't have had to
True.
been like, okay, I did this again. I tested this hairdresser. Look what happened. So then I could be mad at myself at least, you know?
Yeah, right. Oh my gosh. So shifting gears kind of, we want to talk about your experience, your life journey, and if our audience, maybe they know of you and they follow you, or maybe they're hearing about your story for the very first time.
Yeah, sure. Well, I was a new nurse my whole life. I wanted to be a nurse. That's where my story kind of starts in all of this, I think. I had to move away from my province for school. It's incredibly hard to get into a nursing program where I live. And I went to Alberta and I had to move away from Ryan and my family. And that's the first time I'd ever had to truly move away. And I did that for 2 years. It was very hard. But again, I come from an amazing supportive family. And Ryan I could ask him tomorrow to build me a log cabin or I'm going to do it from scratch. And he would support that journey no matter how that looked. He's always been so supportive.
That's so great.
Yes, I'm so blessed. And I graduated there. I graduated at the top of my class. I was valedictorian. I worked so hard, and all of my family drove out and filled the front row. And it was about 19 hours away from where I live now. So it's quite the journey for them to get there. And I graduated.
And sorry to cut you off, just for a timelines perspective, how many years ago was this?
I graduated in 2019 from nursing school.
Okay.
And so I came home and it took a little while to transfer my license over, but I'm such a big believer in everything happens for a reason, that everything, even if it's not on the timeline you want things to happen, it will happen when it's supposed to happen. So, though parts of my journey have been very hard and, very tragic at certain points, I just know that it happened for a reason. And the things that happened like during even, and I'll get into that, they saved my life. Everything happens for a reason. And I knew it took a little while to get my nursing license transferred over to Manitoba, but in that time frame I was already applying for jobs and just explaining, hey, I'm a really good new nurse and I have a lot of people that'll tell you that. I just don't have my Manitoba license yet. Can I just come start shadow work at your hospital just so I can see where things are if I get hired, and I know the policies and procedures for everything at this hospital, and just trying to really put the initiative out there to show people like, I will do what it takes to be here. I know you need nurses, let me do it even though I don't have my license here yet. And there was this small hospital an hour away from where I work. They're very rural. They're in Beausejour, Manitoba. And I had done one application there, and the manager had called me that same afternoon. She had already talked to my references, and I guess that they gave me glowing reviews, and she was super excited to just chat with me. And I just explained things. And like when I go to an interview, I just like talk to them like they could be my potential like work colleagues and friends. I could tell them about my life,
Yeah.
I came from. Not so it's I like to be professional, obviously, but not like started
Super like
I want them to know me.
scripted. Yeah, right.
And I think that is what made my manager love me. And she fought so hard for me to get to this hospital. And I had other job opportunities that were casual and part-time, but she was the one offering full-time work. So I'm like, you know what? There's a hospital 8 minutes away from where I live, but I can go work at the hour away one. She wanted me so bad. I obviously should be there for a reason. So I went there, and I had the most amazing almost first year of nursing. Like, I cannot imagine there have been anywhere else where I would have fallen that much more in love with my job than I did there. It was an incredibly hard job. I make it sound like it was a walk in the park. Being a rural nurse is incredibly hard, especially when at any point you could be in the ER to down one of the wards working on an acute patient to a palliative patient. You get to do everything there. And it was so good for education in that first full year of nursing because you got to do everything. And the people there, it's like I knew them my whole life. And maybe that's because I grew up in a small town, so I understood the small town mentality and becoming part of a small town like work family. And I fit in with them right away. I still am very good friends with all of them. They all came to my wedding.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's so special.
It was amazing, amazing place. But I started to work obviously during 2020 and during the pandemic when things first really started to get rough here for us. Like everywhere, we were so short nurses. We were already critically short before the pandemic happened because we were
Oh my gosh.
and it was so hard to find any kind of coverage. And I was already working over my my allotted time, my allotted schedule because I had to be mandated so much and work so much overtime. And I was on nights. And during the nights, there's only 3 nurses in the whole hospital. So if you run a code, all of the nurses come from the floor and you have to get EMS to come and help. There's nobody else on the floor.
God.
If another patient starts to code, then we're in grave danger, basically. And this is one of those things that the universe gave me a sign and I didn't listen. I went against what was supposed to happen. That night, it was busy, and there was a man in the ER. He was suffering from a state of delirium, and he was quite large man. His feet were hanging over the gurney, but he was coming out of this state of delirium, and I went to approach the bed to tell him, "This is my name, sir. I'm here. I'm just going to give you some water," because he kept saying he was thirsty. And as I approached the bed, he drew both of his legs up, and he was in restraints, but we didn't have enough staff for 4-point restraints, so his feet were free. And I guess during the time when he had been thrashing around, he had been able to loosen the restraints enough, so when he moved his legs up, he was able to turn his body off the side of the gurney, and he just kicked me in the stomach. And I flew across the room. It was like the cartoon when my bum finally hit the floor. I scooted on my bum on the floor, and it knocked the wind out of me. And I'm trying to help, help, get someone to come and help, because now he's freaking out, and it was like the movies. He got the gurney up momentarily, and I'm this is I need to crawl out of here. He was already a large man. I was about a gurney strapped to him, and I instantly knew that I had an injury to my abdomen because he was 6'7" and 400 pounds. He was a big boy. So the doctor then told me I would stay home for my next shift. Brianna, you can bear the stand right now. Stay home for your next shift. After I was cleared and I was okay. So I put my shift up, and I saw that no one was picking it up. No one was picking it up, and they were calling out for an SOS. They had no one, and I'm you know what? Once I'm standing up, I'm fine. It's just that my muscles are sore, so when I have to stand back up, that's I can go to work. It's my last shift. It will be fine. Ryan, well, this is a hill he's willing to die on, his "I told you so" moment, because he's Brie, you should not be going to work. Do not go to work today. I just think you should stay home. And I'm me. I can do whatever I put my mind to. I'm fine. Went to work. My shift was perfect. It was quiet. It was unextraordinary. And I was so excited to leave. And I will never forget laughing momentarily with my coworkers, because you get the post-night shift gigglies in the morning before it's time to go. So we're laughing about the shift, get ready to go. I'm okay, I just have to go. I'll stay here all morning laughing if I don't go. And I walk outside, and it was August 17th. So where I live, it's already early fall, and it's already
2020?
2020 now, yeah.
2020. Okay.
And it was clear. The sky was beautifully blue, and the smell was a little bit dewy, and I can remember vividly everything about that morning, and just looking up and being it's a little cold right now, but you could tell it was going to be a beautiful day. And I vividly remember thinking, wow, today is going to be a gorgeous day. I can't wait to go home and sleep for a little bit and spend the rest of the day outside with Ryan. And I was on my way home, and again, it's an hour drive, and sometimes after night shift, like, you just show up and you're at home. Like, I feel like that's true for a lot of people, not even just night shift workers. Like, if you had an exhausting day, some days you just get and you're home, right? And you don't remember the drive. It's not that you weren't paying attention. It's just like your brain is like done for the day, right? And I'm about 10 minutes away from my house, and I see this white pickup truck. I'm in the right-hand lane, and I see this pickup truck barreling toward the median, and I'm thinking, holy crap, like, he's got to be turning into the left-hand lane. Like, there's no way, there's no way. And like, before you can even like think that, I was in the side of him. I didn't even have time to take my foot off the gas, not even to attempt to brake before I T-boned him. He thought he could beat 4 lanes of highway traffic and just gunned it. And in that moment, I was like, oh my God, I probably just killed someone. I did this. Did I fall asleep? Did I see what I saw? Maybe I wasn't. Maybe did I run a stoplight? Like, what was I doing? Like, I started, in amongst like all of those thoughts, you're like, oh my God, you just got into a car accident. You just got into a car accident. And I thought my car had flipped. The impact was so intense. Instead of flipping my car, it like lifted my car up and spun me this way instead of over top itself. So I was facing the sideways back to me once the car had fully come to a stop. And it was in that moment that you're just like, holy, SHIT, this just happened. I'm in an accident. And I'm like remembering at this point trying to like scream, and it was like this muffled sound of what my voice should have been. And it's like my brain still was hearing the like sound of the metal on the metal and this like explosion sound. It was so loud, it was deafening. And I remember the muffled sounds of my screams, and it was quiet and loud all at the same time, if that can even make sense. And I couldn't breathe. I've never been rear-ended, never in any kind of collision where the airbags would have gone off. So I didn't know when airbags deploy, it's kind of like an explosion, right? So that smell, that like, it's kind of like a gunpowdery smell. So it smelled like my car was on fire. Not a campfire, but if you've ever smelled like an electrical fire or something like that, that's what it smelled like. And all I could see was red. Like, I couldn't really see anything around me besides this like cloud of red. And so I like ran my hand over my head. I didn't see any blood, and I'm like, oh my God, my car's on fire. I need to get out of here. I need to get out of here. And so when I went to reach for my door wasn't where it should have been. And then that's where I realized my left leg was pushed out behind me. And I grabbed it and I shoved my leg down. And again, shock is such an amazing thing. It kept me lucid. My shock kept me alive. And had I fallen asleep in that vehicle, I don't know that I would even be here. I think that it did a lot in those moments, but at the same time, it didn't give me the full sense of what my injuries were. So when I shoved my leg down, I'm like trying frantically to see what I can see, still not being able to feel that. And then I realized, without being able to breathe as well now, I am starting to feel this excruciating pain somewhere in my midsection, but I couldn't really tell where it was. And so when I went to lean to my passenger door, I just needed fresh air. I couldn't breathe. I need fresh air. I need someone to know that I'm in here. I'm hurt. And when I leaned to the side, I like realized then I couldn't move. The dash of the car had crushed me to the car. And so the steering wheel was pinning me to the seat of my backrest, but the impact had snapped my backrest in half. And at the time, I didn't realize the shifting of what I was feeling was not my broken bones, or not the broken seat, but it was actually my broken bones. I thought it was the seat. And I just like remember my arms feeling heavy, and like I'm like, oh my goodness, my leg was behind me. I'm a nurse. You always think you're going to be better. In your own crisis, everyone always thinks, I'm pretty cool as a cucumber, calm, collected. I'm a nurse. I work in an ER. I'm going to have this down pat if I'm ever in my own trauma. That didn't happen. I was frantic. If I truly believe if I wouldn't, again, everything happens for a reason. If I wouldn't have been pinned in that car, I truly believe I would have had enough neurologic stored energy. If I could have opened the door, I would have been able to at least get up and take a few steps, and it would have crushed my spinal cord completely. And I dissected an artery in my neck. I would have bled out. There. So me being pinned in my car was really holding me together at that point. And I felt my pelvic, like I went to feel around my belly and it was starting to get hard. And I'm like, I'm bleeding into my abdomen. If I broke my pelvis, that probably means I'm bleeding out because, nurse fun fact, pelvises are very vasculature, and if you fracture or break a pelvis, you can bleed internally from that. Like, you can bleed out. And so then I'm panicking there. Okay, well, I can't breathe now. I'm in excruciating pain. I'm likely bleeding into my abdomen. I'm gonna die here. I'm gonna die alone here. And my papa had passed a few years prior, and he was such a pillar in our family, and just like everything to our family. So when he passed, it was very traumatic for our family, and we loved him so much. And I just threw my hands up in the air and was looking at my very broken windshield. I couldn't see through it, and I just said, Papa, please don't let me die alone in here. And at that same time, I heard the most angelic voice behind me, and it was this cool, low tone, calm hello. And I just remember hearing this sound, and now I'm thinking, I really am dying. This is Papa. He's here to take me home now. This is it. I'm dying here. And this man got in the back of my car, and I remember his hands against my forehead, and he pulled me into the back of my seat and was trying to push the broken headrest against me as support. And he kept telling me, stop moving, stop moving. My name is John. I'm here to help. And when I put my hands, I remember feeling up here like this, and his hands were like these strong, big, working man hands. And I'm like, I'm hallucinating. This is my papa. It sounds like my papa, feels like my papa. Can't see him, but I'm dying here, or I'm hallucinating. I don't know what's happening. Maybe this is my moment here where an angel's really with me. But he was so amazing. He never hurried his voice. If he was afraid in that moment, you would have never been able to tell. And my bag had flown to the front of the car, and he was like, you're a nurse. Tell me what's hurting, or tell me what you think is wrong, so when help gets here, we can help get you out of the car quicker. I'm like, oh, you're so smart. Yes, I should be doing that already. I should be much better at this. So he helped me like self-triage. And I remember him the pressure of his thumbs in the base of my skull. And that's when he like pulled me in tighter. He was like, stop moving. He was just like, do you feel your legs right now? And that's that thing about shock. I was in so much pain from this I felt like I was being cut in half. I thought the steering wheel had probably, done a lot more damage than I could have saw, and I thought maybe I really was cut. Maybe the dash had cut me in half. I wasn't sure at that point. And I'm like, oh my God, no, I can't feel my legs. I don't know where they are. I know I pushed one of them down. I can't feel my legs. And I was like, my arms are heavy. He was like, you need to stop moving right now. And it took them quite a while to decide if they were gonna, cut the roof off my car or be able to just cut the door off. But I was deteriorating quickly. And so when they finally got there, they just decided, Brianna, there's no easy way for us to get you out of the car. We're going to have to just cut open the door and pull you out. There's no other way. We don't have time. And I was like, at that point, they didn't care, get me out of here. Like, I want out. And I will never for the rest of my life forget when they took my shoulders to the side and they turned me. I felt the click that way. And when they pulled me out over the spinal board, it was like click, click, click of my lower spine as the broken bones like grated over the spinal board. And it was, if you've ever had your back cracked, think of that, but if the bones were loose, like that's what that feeling was like. And that was the last full body sensation I had before everything was just fuzzy. I had no feeling from chest down, like from about collarbone down, there was nothing. And I remember laying on the spine board, looking up at the blue sky again, this big, clear, beautiful sky, and I heard nothing. I couldn't hear the screaming of the other people. I couldn't hear the sirens anymore. There was a helicopter that landed on the highway behind us. I couldn't hear any of it. I knew I was dying. And I was okay with it because I was in so much pain. Like, you have to understand the kind of pain that makes it okay for you to say, I'm okay to die now. I'm at peace. I'm not in pain right now. If this is what dying is like, I'm okay with it because I cannot be in this pain anymore. And then I came around to a paramedic rubbing up on my collarbones. She was like in my face, yelling at me to stay awake, Brianna. Do not close your eyes. Do not fall asleep. Like, stay awake, stay awake. And I remember, I feel bad now because after I was like telling everyone, like, the paramedics were so rude. I was asking all these questions. I heard all the machines going off behind me. I was asking about my vitals, what was wrong, and all this stuff. But then when I read the report, I was not lucid. I was unresponsive. I was there mentally, but my body was not. I wasn't talking. I wasn't responding. I wasn't doing any of the things I thought I was doing. So they weren't rude. They just didn't hear my questions that I was asking. And that's when I heard them panicking. That the hospital, I was on my way home, the rural hospital that was closest to me was 3 minutes away from where I crashed. They didn't think I was stable enough to be transported by the ground ambulance to get 3 minutes to that hospital. So the helicopter behind us was our life flight. And so they decided that I needed to be picked up right there. So there's this picture of me that some news station took of them running. You could see the flight medics running me and my unresponsive body to the back of this helicopter, and that's where my story really started, was the back of that helicopter when they got me to the trauma center.
Wow. What an incredible story, Brianna. And I love the detail because I really, really feel like we were there with you. And I have chills because
me too.
I can't believe how we're talking to you. And honestly, Brianna, I know we were talking before the interview started. You seem so strong and so stable and so, I want to say, positive, that it's hard to believe that you went through this. And so for the next chapter now, you are in rehabilitation for how long? Like, what is the recovery looking like?
So the unfortunate thing about spinal cord injuries is that there is no healing from that. It's one of the only parts of the body that doesn't have the capability to heal itself. So recovery could look ongoing for the rest of my life. Physiotherapy will be the rest of my life. I was in very intensive physical therapy from year one. So let's say the first full year after was my body recovering. I wasn't cleared for full rehab until the next following year. But after that, it was we went to physical therapy every day for 3 hours a day. For almost a full year. Besides, I think 4 of the weekends out of that year we didn't go. And it was very hard on my body, and it actually did a lot. It didn't do me any favors. My spine wasn't ready for that kind of, the pressure and the strain I put it through. And I guess the other side to that, though, is that nerves that need to be innervated and worked every day if they have any chance of making a new pathway or connection. I was already a year behind, so I knew I needed to make up whatever groundwork I had lost, so we put in the work anyway. I'm very, very glad we did it now, but it was very hard. It was very hard for my relationship. It's an hour away from where we live, well, hour and a half away from where we lived. It was a lot of driving. You have to imagine that I suffer greatly with driving PTSD and anxiety, so that was incredibly hard.
Sure.
And we slowed down a little bit until last year when I decided, I'm walking at my wedding and it's go time. I don't care if if my back is no good after this, it's fine. It wasn't going to be any better, so I would rather use this to walk and dance at my wedding, and that's what I did. I worked really hard to be able to walk at my wedding. And
wow.
Yeah, so recovery can be ongoing for the rest of my life, which is exhausting.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No. You got it. I know. I can just tell that you have such a great mindset. And so Ryan, who you have referred to throughout the interview, was your boyfriend during this time. And then he proposed to you in the hospital. Is that right?
Oh, he sure did.
Oh,
gosh. Wow.
So tell us about that, and why was it important for you to walk down that aisle? Was it a goal that you had that you felt like it could get you to that end point? You wanted something to focus on, or was it just a dream of yours and you were going to do it no matter what?
So Ryan had proposed in the hospital because it was during COVID, right after the accident. No one was allowed in. My parents weren't allowed in there. Ryan was not in. I was alone until I finally got through all the pan scans, and they all looked like I was growing a fairy inside of me. And I'm like, what did you see in there? Is there a twin that we didn't know about? What's going on? And that's when they finally let Ryan in, because at that point I was on so much medication I couldn't make sound decisions. And they're like, well, along with breaking your spine in 8 places with burst fractures, compression fractures, you've dissected an artery in your neck, but you've also broken your neck in a severe hangman type fracture, Brianna. The bones are basically obliterated. Where my C2 was held together, they compressed and they burst out. There wasn't a stable bone to fuse them to, so that's why they decided to put me in a halo. But again, everything comes full circle in this world. I used to take care of a high-level quadriplegic, so I knew the struggles that person would face. And at that point, I couldn't move anything. I'm like, I'm going to be a quadriplegic. That's okay, that's a lot to take in. And Ryan got there and I gave this man the out. And I was like, you know what? You can stay here as my friend. You can stay here as, my support, but
Oh, wow.
you don't understand, Ryan, what this is going to look like for us right now.
Yeah.
This is not a life I want you to live. Like, you're young, you're attractive. We can be friends, Ryan, but you do not need to stay out of like fear that someone else is going to judge you for leaving me right now because this was a thing that happened. You can go and I'm not going to have my feelings hurt, but you can stay as my friend. And the look this man gave me, he was like, you are on no medication. We are not taking that for an answer. And
Oh my God.
up until that point, I always dreamed that my family was going to be part of my, I wanted like a small, intimate proposal, but with my family, because my family means so much to me and his family, obviously.
Yeah.
And I woke up, he didn't know this, but the night before, I had the worst night I'd ever had in the hospital. Up to that point, they were talking about fully sedating me and trying to find an ICU bed because it was during COVID. After all of that, I wasn't in ICU because there were no beds. I was on a regular ward at that point.
Gosh.
And they were trying so hard to keep me conscious without having to be on a ventilator, but sedated enough where I wasn't in a pain crisis. So it was a very hard balance for them. And I smelled Ryan's fancy cologne, and I heard the rustling around in the room, and I'm just like, well, okay, I'm not sure what's going on today, but hopefully the nurses told them that I had a bad night. And then I like opened my eyes and there was like this poster board in front of me with all these sweet notes for my family and like messages or pictures. And I look around the room and there's, well, where I could look, there was pictures all in eyesight of my family. And then I saw the top of Ryan's head next to me because I couldn't move and I was in this halo. I had only my peripheral sight and it was still quite blurry from the head injury I had. And I saw the top of his head next to me by the bed. And I'm like, get down, like get up from down there. It's dirty down there. Like, why are you so until he like moved this little box into eyesight and had this beautiful ring in there. And to be quite honest here, the beautiful things that he said in that moment, I don't know. And it's not because I wasn't lucid enough to know. It's because I was in shock that this man was proposing to me.
Right.
And so
you're like, what's happening?
Yes. So then he texted me his like speech he had been practicing. And the story behind that is the reason why Ryan didn't answer his phone right after the accident was there was a bunch of people calling him, and he'd already asked my mom and my dad if he could ask for my hand in marriage, and he thought that they had let other people know. So he's like, well, they must know this weekend I'm proposing to her, so now everyone's calling and texting me trying to like congratulate. Maybe that's why everyone's calling me. He was like, because then I realized there was all these missed numbers from this other place. He was like, I thought they were calling to already congratulate me on like, oh, we heard the news, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, and that wasn't what was happening. They were calling to tell me you were in a terrible accident. But he proposed to me there, and he just said that I was going to propose to you in Disney, but then COVID happened. We couldn't go to Disney because I'm a Disney adult. Yes, I am. Here we are. And he was like, and if it wasn't going to be at Disney, if it was too crowded, because I know you don't want it to be like a huge thing. He was like, I know you love the Titanic. I was going to take you to the Titanic museum there and do it by the clock there, like meet me at the clock. And that's
Oh.
And he was like, so we have this museum where I live. They have a big ship in there too. He was going to have them kind of do whatever kind of decorations they could, but still like, keep the museum and do it there. He's like, but then that couldn't happen because of your work schedule. He was like, there was never going to be a right moment for any of this. He was like, and maybe now this is not the time you thought that I was going to propose to you. He was like, but if there's anything I know is that I can't live without you. And there was this moment where
oh my God, I'm going to start crying.
that I was going to have you.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Pam's crying, our producer. I know, this is so beautiful.
Oh my
who cares about the beauty section of this call sheet?
It was just like, I promise to love you now the
gosh.
same as I will when I'm gonna love you 50 years from now. He was like, we can look old and gray. He was like, with you in a wheelchair and me in mine next to yours. He was like, that's all that's gonna matter. And I'm like, this man is either this is a trauma response or this man really loves me. And,
oh my God.
it was a little while after that I just said, I'm like looking at my legs in bed, and I just said to him like, well, I don't know how this is gonna happen, but you mark my words, I'm gonna be walking at our wedding. I will walk you at our wedding day. And he was just like, like, okay, Brianna, I'm sure you will. That'll look great.
Yeah,
And, like,
right.
whatever it
Yeah.
takes, I'm gonna do it. And I think in that moment it was a goal for myself, because at that point you don't know what your life is gonna look like. Initially, and a lot of people don't know this, I was given really good prognosis. They didn't initially see that I had a spinal cord injury, and it was from all the swelling around my spinal cord. And the prognosis was
Okay.
that there might be a few deficits, but I should have a mostly full recovery from this. And so when they're in my mind at that point is that I can work toward walking, but like normal walking, not the deficits they think I might have, kind of thing. Even though at that point
okay.
I couldn't feel my legs, it was just like this goal I had set. And when you don't know where your life is going to go, you just need something to focus on. At least that's for me anyway. Something else to focus on by like, okay, the scary thing just happened. We still can't move our arms, but that's okay. We will walk. We'll put our mind to something. And it just became a goal. And also, I think when you think about your wedding growing up, you're not thinking about having to wheel down your wedding aisle. I don't think until this moment I realized like how quickly a life can change, how quickly your life can change, and that in a blink of an eye, everything you thought that was going to be is no more. And I never imagined that I was going to be in a wheelchair for my wedding. So I was like, I'm walking with my mom and my dad. I don't care what that looks like, but I'm going to do it. And that's how this like remarkable like journey to recovery started.
Yeah. Wow. And you did it.
I did it.
Redheads, have you heard?
We aired on ABC's Shark Tank, episode 14, season 15. We are busy developing products and continuing to grow this incredible Redhead lifestyle brand.
Check out our mascara and eyebrow products in red hot shades, hair care, merch, lifestyle items, and so much more. Redheads, we can now rejoice.
Finally, there are products for us.
Use code podcast to get 15% off your next purchase. Shop at shop.howtobearedhead.com. And
wow,
you did it. And you know, obviously it was just like, it's so emotional to just see the videos that you've posted on TikTok.
Photos.
And I was wondering too, you know, since you started sharing your journey online, what made you want to start sharing your story? Because, you know, Stephanie and I wouldn't know about your story if you didn't post about it. And so many people wouldn't be influenced if you didn't share your story. So what made you want to start? Did you start first on TikTok? Is that what you decided to do first?
Yeah, so I think like most people, early pandemic, a lot of us got that early TikTok addiction. So I was on TikTok before the accident, but like very, very pre-accident, like just a few months beforehand. So when I got my first 10 followers, I'm like, this is it. I've made it in the TikTok world. I've got 10 followers. This is it. And I was like,
and now you have a half a million, right? So it's really grown.
Yeah.
So I had posted a few things and that I had started getting like a little bit of traction just because I've got this crazy sense of humor, and other people seemed to like it. So it was taking off. And then I was gone for I think it was about a month or 2 months, and then I did my first video of me in the hospital, like this is what happened, this is where I've been, kind of thing. And that was my first video that I think reached over 50,000 views. And I'm just like, at that point I was like, oh my goodness, for a little small town Brie, this is as big as it gets. This is as big as she's gonna get. Like, I'm so happy. It was so nice to have all the like kind messages roll in, and it's like it took off because it was so easy early on TikTok to like make jokes. I didn't start out on TikTok to like make this big journey and like have you never expect to like have like a big following that people are going to be so inspired by your tragedy and like what you've been able to turn it into. And so I was just making a lot of jokes early on that I think resonated with a lot of other people. Like, you can go through this really crappy time, but you can still also have fun, and you don't have to just be down in the crappy thing that happened to you. And I think a lot of people fell in love with my very nurse dark sense of humor about the whole subject, and that's what started to really draw people in. And I think when things really changed gears, when I started actually like showing what that recovery looked like for me, what this life looks like for me right now, and that changed like I think the dynamics of my audience drastically. That's when all of a sudden I hit my first 200,000 followers, and like so on after that. And the messages that people like would send to you, like, think of like the worst thing that's happened to your life. Like, each of you, think of the worst thing that's happened to you in your life, And if you had to share your journey, how you're still here right now, how you made it through that terrible thing, could you have imagined at that point that that terrible thing would have been somebody else's inspiration to keep going through their tough thing? Like, you don't know the impact you can have on someone else's life until you start talking about it and talking about the hard thing and realizing that there's other people in similar boats. And when you realize it's easier to be in a crappy boat with other people in the crappy boat with you. And that's what I
because you know you're not. Sorry, I was going to say, you know, you're not alone. And I wanted to ask too, with such a big following on TikTok and you sharing your story, you are getting followers writing in, or are they writing in saying, maybe it's not an accident, but exactly what you just said, maybe it's something that's, you know, affected their life, people that they may know, and are they leaning for you for inspiration? Because I know, I mean, just talking with you, you're so positive in something that happened in your life at such a dark point, and then now I just think that you're so strong. So I feel like you would make your followers feel good if they're going through something so horrible. So do you get DMs? Like, wouldn't be surprised if you get them all the time. And what advice do you give them?
There's I didn't realize at first, like, how many messages I was getting. I guess that there was this whole section of between TikTok and Instagram, like, where there's like message requests, and like I was
and you don't see them, kind of. Yeah.
Then I clicked on it one day when I found it, and I was like, I could not fathom the amount of mess. I've still to this day, I've never been able to get through all of these messages that people have sent in, and I feel terrible.
Oh my God.
But my eyes don't work that great, and it just, I would spend all day for months on end trying to read these comments, but like, it's so humbling to know that, again, your tragedy could be someone else's light in their dark, and it helped bring a little bit of lightness to my own dark. And everyone always comments that, like, you're so resilient, you're so positive, you seem so strong.
Yeah.
You have such a good head on your shoulders. But truly, I think the internet is a very good place to hide a lot of what's going on and only show the highlight parts. I am a very positive person. That's who I've been my whole life, but I have struggled immensely with my mental health throughout this, like, immensely. And the only reason why I'm truly here is because of the support of my husband, and I have an amazing family and friend group. And when I really hit a low point and I thought, you know what, like, I don't know if I can pick myself up anymore. Like, this is going on 2.5, 3 years now. I'm done fighting. I'm done with this now. I don't know that I can go on anymore. And then I started reading those messages, and you realize that, again, there's always light to be found in darkness. And like, even when you don't think there's any more in you to pick up, there's always a little bit more fight. And that's when I started leaning on my own followers for my own inspiration, to get that inspiration back to myself. Like, okay, there's people here who are watching this journey, and they have gotten themselves out of dark places. They're showing your stuff at rehab centers now, and there's people there who weren't getting out of bed, and now they're trying to do physical therapy. And like, you have purpose here. You still have meaning, and you still have purpose. Get up and find it today. And that's just how I keep trying to keep going with the thing.
I love that, because if someone is in a rehab facility, let's say they just, whatever the case may be in their situation, and they're having a hard time, and then they see your story, I feel like they're like, wait, she did it, I can do it. So you're such a good example. And I think how TikTok and your followers, that's such a good example too, on how social media has its pros and cons. But I think the pro is that people can say, okay, I'm not alone.
Exactly.
You know, and life. And I think with social, right, everyone likes to share the amazing stuff, but you're so raw and authentic that I think people can really, I mean, I know following you on how to be a Redhead account, especially, and seeing everything, you're just so authentic, and you're just like, this is what I'm doing. Yeah, and inspirational, because everyone has ups and downs in life, and life's a roller coaster, and you really have like, life has hurdles too, and you really have jumped over each and every hurdle. It's really, truly remarkable. I mean, I like want to cry too. It's like so remarkable.
I know. I can hear. I know your voice through stuff. I know. I can't say enough, Brianna, about just, you know, I know you said that you struggled with your mental health immensely, but, you know, I can say that I agree with everything that you're saying, that everything happens for a reason. I think that's how you started this interview, by saying like everything happens for a reason. And I think that can be a really tough journey to be like, well, why did it happen? You know, like I know that it happened for a reason, but Stephanie and I have been and are currently going through, extremely stressful situations with family. And sometimes I think to myself, how are we even working? How are we even going through some of the things that we're going through? And you have to just, I don't know what goes through. I was wondering what happens when you wake up in the morning, and what do you give yourself positive affirmations to just keep going every day? And I know you have an extremely great support system, but I always feel like those beginning moments in your life or in your day are the things that kind of get you going and get you, to the next point of like maybe getting your breakfast and moving throughout your day. What do you do when you first wake up?
So I've done this thing for a number of years. This was long before the accident. And one of my earliest memories actually too, when I became more lucid in the hospital, I did the same thing. And every morning I wake up, I say 3 things in my head that I'm grateful for. I don't like the thing where I lay in bed.
I love that.
It's always,
I do
I
too.
have a really good night's sleep last night. And if some days when my mental health is struggling, I'm like, I had a beautiful sleep in my warm, safe house. I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that I got to take my medication this morning with clean drinking water that I didn't have to struggle for. And like sometimes it's just the most basic things. Some days I'm so grateful that I get to come on a podcast today and share my story. I'm so grateful that I have a opportunity to go out and do these other things. And some days, obviously, the gratitude is for much funner things than drinking water. But every day, it's like ritual. 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I remember waking up and looking around at the hospital and thinking, okay, I know who I am. I know where I am. I know who Ryan is. I know who my family is. I'm so thankful that I have my memory, and I'm so thankful that I can talk and the nurses and people around me can understand what I'm saying and that my words are making sense. And I'm so grateful that I'm breathing on my own. I'm not on a ventilator. So it started very basic, and then it got to, I'm so grateful I got to wiggle my fingers today. I'm so grateful that I got to hold my pen. So that is something that I do. But there are days, and even just recently last year should have been the best year of my life. I got married, but there was a lot of immense stress around last year for myself, and it was very hard to say those affirmations, very hard to find something to be positive for. And that's when those basic things came in. I am safe. I am as healthy as I can be right now. I have 3 really great friends that I can talk to today when I'm sad. I know I can call my mom when she's
right. You have so much abundance in your life and so many amazing things. But I agree, a gratitude practice in the morning is like such a good way to start your day and then make you feel like, oh my gosh, like I have a lot of things that a lot of people don't have, like for example, a lot of people are trying to find true love, and you have, Ryan's been by your side from the very beginning. So I think that that's something, when you think about all your blessings, it puts life into perspective, and you're like, wow, like I really am blessed in so many ways.
That happened to Steph and I recently, and I think when a trauma happens, and Brianna, tell me how you feel about this, but I immediately think, why did I sweat the small stuff about this or that, or worry about, I don't know, Stephanie and I would get into fights because I would like steal her clothes or something, just like little sister things. Like, for an example, it doesn't even matter, like none of that stuff matters when you are dealing with an extremely traumatic situation. And in some ways, I don't know about you, but that has humbled me to know that I don't need to sweat the small stuff anymore. Like, have you made that a practice in your life to kind of just like
that
not
is a practice.
Worry about the little things?
Yeah. That's something that I have to work on daily, because then you catch yourself. You catch yourself, right? Like you may be in line at the grocery store and the clerk is taking too long, right? And you're like, oh my God. And you get all worked up. And then I have to check in with myself and be like, okay, breathe. It's going to be okay. In a couple minutes,
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It's like, what's that saying or something? In 5 years is what you're getting worked up going to make a difference. And if it doesn't, like, don't worry about it. But it makes me think of, it's a practice. But are you finding that too, Brianna?
I wish I could agree with that so much, but I have such terrible anxiety that all the little things feel like big things. But a lot of that comes from
of course.
I think I'm still looking for like the big things in life. I feel like I'm still looking to after this accident to do big things, to worry about big things. And I have a lot of like, it's not a lot of nothing to focus on. So those little things feel like big things to me. Like, okay, I couldn't leave my house and go to the grocery store today. Oh, I'm so stressed about that because I couldn't leave my house for the day, or I couldn't do that. And sometimes on the other, if I, I also have this other terrible habit where I will just, I don't care about anything. Okay, you want to go do that? Fine. Okay, that sounds great. Oh, that house is on fire? Oh, well, that one's not, so that's okay. Like, I just, like, stop. I, like, turn a blind eye to everything, or I feel everything. I feel like there's no in between for me. I'm definitely working on managing some of my anxiety so the little things don't feel like such overwhelming things. And I should have a better mindset in that, knowing that, like, everything before the accident that I've ever stressed about, even a lot of the stuff that I've stressed out since the accident, was just that stress. An imaginary tale I told myself, a story that I thought was going to happen that didn't end up happening. Everything worked out. And that is kind of how I'm starting to switch my mentality. Is like, you've worried about something similar. What was the outcome to that? If there's nothing you can do, to have Ryan's mental health, I would pay money for that. I would pay good money to have Ryan's mental health. He always just says, are you going to be able to fix this problem by the end of the day if you stress more about it? No. Are you going to be able to fix the problem at all if you do everything in the world and have no stress? Is the problem still going to be solved, or can you do it yourself? No. He's like, well, then why are we stressing about it? I'm like, well, exactly, Ryan. Why are we? I don't know. I have anxiety. You tell me. So, like, we joke about that all the time.
Yeah. But it's so good that you have him, because you guys are so opposite with your mindset. So it's nice to have someone. Can you imagine if you were with someone? Yeah, Ryan. If Ryan had your anxiety, I feel like it would just it would be just constant anxiety. Whereas he really is the calm to your storm.
Oh, he really is. Like,
yeah.
We always say he's probably like a duck, like calm on the surface, and his feet could be kicking it like crazy under, and you wouldn't be able to tell.
Oh. Yeah, that sounds like my husband. My husband's so calm, and it's nice because we're so different. And I totally, sometimes I'll get worked up about something and I'll say, this is stressing me out. And he kind of brings me down, as if what Ryan does to you. So it's nice because then you're like, wait, my mind wasn't thinking like that. But when you're told it, you're like, that totally makes sense. I just needed someone to tell me. So here you are. So it's like he's really your person. So that's really beautiful. And he seems like an amazing person.
He does. He does. I'm like, I agree, Steph. I'm like, what a love story this is. And I was wondering about the both of you. So I was wondering in two things. I wanted to talk about laughter to end the interview, because I feel like as I was scrolling through your TikTok, I realized, laughter can be the best medicine. And our dad always told us that, like, I don't even know if it's true, but he was like, always laugh when you're stressed or worried.
Never
or
go to bed
because,
mad. Always laugh. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it gives your brain like the serotonin that it needs to like cope with that moment. And so when I was going through your TikTok, I did notice that you have such a great sense of humor. And I know you mentioned that your followers love your sense of humor. So have you and your husband found laughter to be a form of medicine for not only your relationship, but for what happened to you? And is it well received by your followers? Because I think that they're loving it too.
Yes. I have always been a believer of laughter is best medicine. I even brought that as a nurse to the hospital. If anyone laughs, you're having a much better day, right? And if you can laugh at a crappy situation, you're having an even better time, even though you're having a crappy time. So I have always tried to like look at this from a more positive and humorous side. And I think things are received better if they're like have kind of more positive spin. Like it can be a crappy thing and use that to your advantage to turn it into something more positive. So laughter is definitely the best medicine. I often, if I'm in a bad mood or if I've argued with Ryan, I believe the saying is everyone always tells you at your wedding, don't go to bed mad, angry. Don't go to bed angry. Go to bed angry at all. That's just for yourself. So I could be angry at my husband, but if I'm going to watch something funny or make sure I'm looking at funny videos so I can like make myself feel good before bed, that will help with my mood for the next day. And I just think, laughter is the best medicine. And Ryan and I, if anyone who spends any amount of time around us, we love to roast one another. We love to just laugh and make fun of one another. And that's what makes other people laugh at us. So we're a very goofy couple.
Well, that's so great. And you
Love
really
it.
found your match
Yes.
and your person. And it really is beautiful.
It's a beautiful story of true love. That's true
That
love.
really
Yeah,
You know, it's when no matter what happens, no matter anything, you know, that means that he loved you and for your soul, and it's more of a soul connection than anything else. And
mm,
I think that's extremely rare in this world to find someone who's
totally.
such a soulmate, you know? So you are more rich than you even know, Brianna, really. I feel that you, as I get older and older, I always tell people like the true richness in life is just what brings you joy, your family, the small moments in life. It's really the little things that are true riches. So obviously your story is extremely inspirational. Can you tell us about your plans to share your story as you know, as you continue to share it? Do you want to continue doing your TikTok, or what's next for you?
So I have had so much fun making videos and that online, but there's always been people asking and addressing if I would write a book. So
I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
So hopefully in the near future, we'll be working more toward a book. And most recently, I have
Wow.
started a blog. I haven't launched yet. We're hoping to do it maybe this week or next week, but to really show that other side. Like we're saying, social media is such a positive highlight reel. And I've been trying so hard to be authentic in the days that are bad days for me, because that's what those other people in early recovery need to see, that yeah, Brianna's having a great time. How is she having a great time? It's not all the time. Brianna's not always having a great time. So it's important to me to show the hard side of this as well. But I think in a blog, I will be able to be much more like raw and authentic in how I felt. I plan to share like my journal. I have journaled almost every day for the past almost 4 years now about my experience, my days. And so,
Wow, that's remarkable.
yeah,
Has that helped you,
yes,
journaling?
yes.
Yeah.
I recommend that to everyone, even if you've not been through a traumatic thing. If you can just get your feelings out on somewhere, you're not holding them inside then, right? So I have
Yeah.
journaled my whole life,
I need to do
and
that.
it worked. It's always worked out in my favor. Actually, my husband, that thing about full circle, everyone's got a person in the world. How I ended up finding mine in my same community, I don't know. After a series of bad breakups, I wrote a list of things that I was not settling for. Unless this person had all of these qualities, I was not settling for anything less. And it wasn't until I moved to this house before I got all my stuff ready to move to Alberta. I was looking through I had been at university prior to that, and I was looking through all my old university books, seeing if I still had like papers and binders that I could use. And in one of my binder sleeves, there was a crumpled up piece of paper. I pulled it out. It had like Cheeto finger stains on there. It was a hot mess, but it was this list of all of these qualities I wanted in my partner. And when I showed this to my mom, I couldn't believe what I found. It's Ryan. Everything on that paper was Ryan. So I put it in a frame and I gave it to him at our wedding.
That is
You
so
did.
beautiful.
So journal.
Oh my God.
Ladies, listen to this. Journal.
You know, I'm calling
I
I'm
know.
calling for a TV show for you guys. I mean, this needs to be a TV show where we can just get inspired by you, and it'll be such good television to just see you two.
Yeah.
I mean, this is just an incredible story. And honestly, I'm going to step away from this interview feeling very blessed that we got the chance to talk to you.
Same.
And thank you so much for everything. Thank you for your time, and just thank you for sharing and being so vulnerable. And for someone who has such a hard time being vulnerable, I am just like, I need to be more like you in terms of just opening up and sharing. And it's so important. It's just really the beauty of life.
Yes, it really is.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing your story. And we will be sure to include your social handles and
new blog.
and your new blog in the podcast notes so our listeners can reach out to you. And again, thank you for your time. You are the definition of a strong human being. So thank you.
No, thank you guys so much for having me, and it's truly humbling. It's humbling to hear that, again, that your story can have an impact on others. So thank you for listening and taking the time to have me.
Thank you.
Of course.